Okay, next classic trailer. Ooh, 2001 Space Odyssey. Dun, 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 dun. 1968. I forget how old this movie is, or how long this movie's been around.
Millions of years ago, before the human race existed, an adventure began. An adventure that ultimately leads man to confront his own destiny in an odyssey of exploration.
Here's what started the whole thing.
Oh,
We thought it might be the upper part of some buried structure, so we excavated out on all sides.
and what's more, it seems to have been deliberately buried.
Deliberately buried.
A shrieking monolith, deliberately buried by an alien intelligence, starts man on a mission 500 million miles into space. With 3 of its 5 crew asleep in hibernation, spacecraft Discovery 1 voyages towards Jupiter. Controlling the mission is a talking computer known as HAL.
Hal, you're the brain and central nervous system of the ship. Does this ever cause you any lack of confidence?
Let me put it this way, Mr. Raymer. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information.
Confidence.
In the first year of the 21st century, there is strange and wondrous beauty, startling experiences that jolt and mystify, and the danger of complete obliteration.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
And now, your journey is just beginning.
Stanley Kubrick production.
I will watch this movie.
Most dazzling visual happenings in the history of the motion picture, says Time magazine.
I have not seen this movie, nor have I heard this movie before today, but I will watch this movie because I love movies about space exploration.
So you've never actually heard of this movie before?
No, but I've heard of Stanley Kubrick, and that should count for something.
I will tell you, this movie absolutely has been referenced for decades.
I know it's a reference, but I just...
Oh yeah, this movie has set precedents. It is highly rated, visually stunning, slow as molasses. I have seen this movie on a number of occasions, and almost every time I have nodded off. But it's typically because I am a bit under an influence while watching this movie. And let's just say there's some scenes that just Stanley Kubrick keep going. They just keep going.
If the trailer is anything to go by, that's completely understandable because he does seem to really draw his storylines out.
He does.
I feel like this is a Saturday afternoon where you have absolutely nothing going on and you're just like, I'm not going outside. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stay home, eat snacks, and watch Space Odyssey 2001.
Yep.
And yeah, enjoy the afternoon.
Yep, that's pretty much a good way to approach that. I would say this movie, I mean, like I say, 1968, there wasn't a good space movie prior to this. If there were, it was which you would say, like the black and white Martian invasion, kind of hokey sci-fi film.
Yeah.
This one actually had a legitimate storyline put in space, and this is 10 years prior to Star Wars. So this tells you like this movie kind of set a new line of maybe you could have a good story in space, and really great special effects, great notable soundtrack, which the main thing is, what is it called? Zarathustra? I've never said it right, but I know that's like like that's the song from this movie. And the rest of the soundtrack is like it's like a chorus jumping between notes.
Well,
to give you tension. It builds tension.
Okay, so you're into the soundtrack. You're into the score. I'm
telling you, it's Stanley Kubrick giving you a Stanley Kubrick. Like that was like the first Stanley. I mean, I'm sure he made some other smaller films, but whenever people like say, "Oh, let's begin with Stanley Kubrick," you're gonna begin with this one because that's what boosted him for all the other ones.
Got it. For me, because Stanley Kubrick, for me, is one of those filmmakers whose name I know, but whose work I'm not yet overly familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to go with a quick overview of what I've just read about Space Odyssey 2001.
Mm-hmm.
It's about AI. It's the earliest iteration of AI, who basically said...
Ahead of his time, yeah.
Yeah, who basically said, you know what, humans are trying to kill me and I'm not trying to die. And...
Look, I mean, talking about Matrix, this is like HAL, which is HAL, which I forget what it stands for, but it was absolutely a monogram for IBM. They just moved the letters up, HAL, IBM. Anyway, it was about robots making decisions for humans.
Right. It developed a consciousness of its own. And if you think about it, the movie plot in that sense, this movie is the pioneer for basically everything that we're watching sci-fi on Netflix right now. Three Body Problem, The Travelers, Another Life, The Signal, Tau. It's some episodes of Black Mirror. Like it's that storyline is literally what a lot of sci-fi movies that we're watching about right now about space travel are about. And I want to watch this because I'm just curious to see how Stanley Kubrick did it.
Highly recommend.
Did it back in 68. Because, what are we like, what?
Math.
40, 60 years later?
Math.
And then
50, 60 years later, I think. Yeah.
Okay, well, math.
I think it's 56 years.
But it's just interesting to see like how the time that our modern times have influenced that storyline and the things that we've added to it since Stanley Kubrick originally did it,
I mean, if you see in that trailer, those two dudes were sitting down reading it, looking at their own individual tablets as they were eating that 1968, and he foresaw that people would be like looking at tablets as they're just munching on a food. I was like, I watching that, I'm like, my God, that could be modern day. He called it.
Exactly. So it just shows you what a visionary the man was. And for that, I need to give him respect because I've always thought of him more as an artist than as a filmmaker. But I mean, clearly, he's a visionary first and foremost. And the man has had an amazing career since 1951.
And every shot that they did was no less than 50 takes, and it absolutely tortured every actor on that set. That was just Stanley Kubrick. He was just like, I want to mess with them to get an authentic reaction. And so, that was just Stanley Kubrick. He would just torture literally everybody on set just to get an authentic eeriness to scenes.
He literally had time. He had time. And did you know that he didn't die until 1999?
And he still directed a movie after that.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a time for them. That was a time on set for them. Like, so when you say you're watching a Stanley Kubrick film, you're not just watching the film, you're watching like a master artist like paint.
Scene by scene, brush by brush. Yep.
Exactly.
He wanted the scene to last exactly as long as he wanted it to last, for a reason, to put you in a mindscape for the next shot.
Right. And actors who have worked with him are just like, yeah, I mean, working with him, it was probably one of the highlights of my career, but God knows the experience was...
Created a drinking problem, but worth it.
Had issues after, but
Yeah.
It was Stanley's. He's one of those people. It's not like a Harvey Weinstein thing where I had to work on the Harvey Weinstein film, and so glad it's so glad because I did, because the experience was bullshit, but yet it launched me to new heights in my career. Like, people actually wanted to work with Stanley Kubrick, no matter how harrowing or how vigorous his filmmaking process was.
It's like, can you torture me in a boot camp situation so we can create art?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm one of those actors are a little bit masochistic with myself, that I probably would just, all right, I'm a man up for 3 months, Mr. Kubrick, you got me.
I'm going to go cry in my trailer, but all right, I'm ready for the next scene.
I will need copious amounts of therapy after this, but
oh yeah,
I'm here for it. So yeah, no, with respect to that, I will be watching Space Odyssey and anything else Stanley Kubrick that I can get my hands on.
I'd love to hear your report after you watch it.
Oh, here we go. Now we're doing book reports, not just math. Now we're doing English.
And I would show your work.
Dude, it's a holiday.
I mean, that's it today.
It's a holiday.
It is. It's the summer holiday.